You can travel the world and find lots and lots of statues to lots and lots of people and things. But you're going to be hard-pressed to find a statue to motherhood. Or fatherhood, for that matter. And yet, there might not be any more important role in all the world than mom and dad. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll think there's irrelevant and worthless. I mean, you would think that there would be statues all over the place to motherhood and to fatherhood. But they're not. So I want us just to look at 1 Kings 3 and be reminded from this account of King Solomon about what is most important. So if you turn to 1 Kings chapter 3, Solomon has become king, and now we have this episode in his life. So it starts off, Solomon made a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people were sacrificing at the high places, however, because no house had yet been built for the name of the Lord. Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father, only sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeon the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I shall give you." And Solomon said, "You have shown great and steadfast love to your servant David my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness and righteousness and in uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great and steadfast love, and have given him a son to sit on his throne this day. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern this your great people?" Now, sometimes people ask me why I believe the Bible, and there are a variety of reasons why I believe the Bible. But one of the main reasons why I believe the Bible is because all the great people in the Bible are messed up. I mean, if you're going to write a biography of somebody you admire, you have a tendency to make them kind of sanitized and cleaned up and looking good, and you conveniently skip over the negatives and their bad qualities and mistakes, and you kind of make them look, nobody writes a biography and says, "By the way, I've included 8 chapters of all their mistakes." We just don't tend to do that, but the Bible does it. So when we look at Solomon, we are reminded right off the bat, verse 1, this guy is not a perfect king. Not even close. As a matter of fact, notice it says they made a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now, as important as marriage is, and as significant as it can be in your life, especially if you marry young and are married your whole life, there are very few regulations about marriage given in the Bible. Matter of fact, I used to say there were 2, now I'll say there are 3 because I've needed to add one in recent years. But there are 3 requirements that the Bible gives for a follower of the Lord when it comes to marriage. First of all, it needs to be someone of the opposite gender. Men marry women and women marry men. Whew, thank you. That's how God designed it from the beginning. Secondly, it is one man and one woman. So one man marries one woman marries one man. And third, they are to be a fellow follower of Jesus. That's it. The Bible doesn't give any regulations about age differences, doesn't give any differences about social differences, doesn't give any differences about anything about different backgrounds or what we look like or none of that. None of that matters. What matters is you marry the opposite gender, you marry one of them, and you marry a fellow believer. So Solomon, in verse 1, has violated principle number 3. He's married an unbeliever, and he's done it for political purposes and reasons. He makes a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So he takes Pharaoh's daughter and brings her in the city of David. So that's the first thing about him. Shows he's not perfect. The second thing about him is the high places. Verse 2, the people are sacrificing at the high places, however, because no house had been built for the name of the Lord. The temple has not yet been constructed. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 12, God over and over and over and over again in that chapter says, "You will go to worship at the place where I make my name to dwell." Now, they had a tabernacle, it was this giant tent thing, and that was where they were supposed to worship. was at the tabernacle, wherever it was. And so it was at Gilgal for a while, and then at Shechem, and they moved around a few different places. But at this point, it's in Jerusalem. This is where they should be worshiping. So what are high places? High places are leftovers from Canaanite worship. In some cases, they actually worshiped the deities that had been celebrated at the high places. In others, they tried to repurpose them to worship the Lord, but they were not supposed to do this. And so Solomon has made a marriage alliance with Pharaoh's daughter, and he has participated and encouraged the people to worship at these high places when they were specifically told not to do that. But then look what it says in verse 3. Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father, only sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. Now, how can you love the Lord and still be disobedient? Well, if loving the Lord required 100% absolute obedience, there isn't a single person in this room that loves the Lord. The reality is, if you are a follower of Jesus, there's some stuff in your life that shouldn't be there. I mean, this is how it is. I would love to say that all of your ministerial staff have it all together. We love the Lord, and there's no stuff in our life that we need to get rid of, but that's just simply not true. I got about two of y'all who said amen. If you know me well, you'd stand up and you could say, you know, I'd enumerate all the junk in his life, but I don't have enough fingers and toes. So in the Bible, people who love the Lord still have stuff that's not right in their life. And so this is good for you and me. This means that we can love the Lord and not be perfect. We can love the Lord and follow Him and serve Him and still have the high places in our life. Now let me just kind of go off and preach here for just a moment considering this. This also means that those of you who look down your nose at other people and their spiritual life, you need to stop, because you don't have it all together. I mean, I sometimes just meet such arrogant, judgmental Christians that evaluate everybody else, but don't ever look at their own life. And like, dude, when you're pointing at somebody, you got more fingers pointing back at you. And so, you know, Solomon can love the Lord and still there's some stuff. And matter of fact, if you love the Lord, what you really want is that stuff out of your life. I mean, that's one of the ways we know we love the Lord is we don't want that stuff. But none of us are close to perfection. So Solomon has a few things going on here that are not right. But he still does, in a sense, love the Lord. Now, verse 4, he goes to Gibeon, because that's the really cool high place. That's the great high place. Now, where in the world is Gibeon? Well, we have a map here. And that solves it for you. So now, Gibeon's about 5 miles from Jerusalem. So they would walk there. Now, I find it actually kind of humorous. Commentators writing on this say Gibeon was very close to Jerusalem, only about 5 miles away. Now, you are aware that in Bible times they walked everywhere. How many of you have ever looked at your family and said, y'all want to go to dinner tonight? Yeah. Good. I know this restaurant, it's 5 or 6 miles over here, let's walk. Not a chance. No way. Now, those of you who like really hop on math stuff, you've already figured out. If it's 5 miles over there, it's 5 miles home. That's 10 miles round trip. You're like, man, I'm not walking 10 miles to eat dinner. Matter of fact, some of you get winded just getting to the car. And so the idea is, it's close, it's only 5 miles. I'm thinking, when you walk everywhere, 5 miles, not quite so close. So it was a couple hours walk over there. So Solomon and his entourage, they all get over. Now, the end of verse 4 says, he used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. This is what's called hyperbole. Hyperbole is when you intentionally overstate the case to make a point. He obviously didn't offer 1,000 every time he went. It's an overstatement to emphasize that he offered a lot. We do this all the time. I'm starving to death. No, you're not. I can look at you. I know you ain't starving to death. I'm dying of thirst. No, you're not. We don't need to call 911. You just mean I want to get a drink out of the water fountain. Like, that's hyperbole. Man, it's like 150 degrees outside. No, it's not. You'd be dead. Though we overstate the case to mean, man, it's hot outside. So it says he burned it. That's just a hyperbole. And I like to use the word hyperbole because it makes me sound educated. And so the point is he offers a bunch while he's there. And so Solomon goes and makes these offerings. Now, one of these trips out there, verse 5 tells us, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. And God said, this is very important, notice how it's worded, ask what I shall give you. He does not say, I will give you what you ask. He says, ask what I will give you. I mean, I've thought, man, what if God came to me and said, I'll give you whatever you ask? We're going to be there a long time because that's a big list. And you may be hoping that you're on the list. Nope. But anyway, so God doesn't say, I'm going to give you what you ask. He just says, ask what you would like for me to give you. And then look at Solomon's response, verse 6. He says, well, you are an awesome God. You have shown great and steadfast love to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness, righteousness, and uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great and steadfast love and given him a son, meaning himself, to sit on his throne today. So after this introductory comment, here comes his prayer, verse 7. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father, although I'm but a little child. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to go out or come in. Your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multitude. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern your great people? Here's what he's saying. Of all the things I need to operate as king, the one I need the most is wisdom. Now, there are a lot of other things that a king needs, but this is basic. This is foundational. Because if a king's a fool, there's no hope for anything else. And I'm aware that sometimes we elect fools as leaders. The English word for fool is politician. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. But they have it. So you don't want somebody, because if there's a fool, they're not going to do anything right. So basic, foundational is wisdom. So let me see if I can kind of illustrate what I'm trying to get at. Every other year, I teach a class to a collection of torture recipients known as students. And this is what I teach them. Now, this is how the Bible begins. Bereshith bara Elohim eth hashem with hearts. And so this is Hebrew. And here's kind of the way that it goes. Almost every time I teach this class, about 5 or 6 weeks into it, I'll have a student say, can I meet with you? I'm lost. And I'm failing and I'm struggling. And I'm like, yes. So we'll set an appointment. They come in, and every single time, a student who's on a failing trajectory, and I meet with him, here's the first thing I do. I slide him a piece of paper and I say, write the alphabet. What? Write the alphabet. And every single time, they can't do it. The reason they're struggling is you can't read words if you don't know what the letters are. As a matter of fact, did you know every language works this way? I mean, you can't read it if you don't know. I mean, this is basic. This is fundamental. This is where it starts. If you don't know what the letters are, if you can't understand the alphabet, you're never going to understand the words. I mean, if you don't know the letters in English, you can't even spell a difficult English word like Bob. That third letter gets you every time. And so the idea here is Solomon understands there are a lot of complicated things when it comes to being king, but you can't do any of them unless you start with wisdom. So it says this is basic, this is fundamental, this is essential, is that in order to be king, I need to be able to do this. So beginning verse 10, God is going to promise him that his prayer is answered. Verse 10, it pleased the Lord that Solomon asked this. I don't know about you, but I just think it would be so cool if the Bible could say of Paul Smith, it pleased the Lord. I would hope that in your life there are things that you do that it pleases the Lord. So it pleased the Lord that Solomon asked this. God said to him, because you have asked this and have not asked for yourself long life or riches or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right. Behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before you, and none like you shall rise after you. You'll be the wisest man to ever live. I give you also what you have not asked, the bonus, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. And if you will walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days. So I'm going to give you riches, I'm going to give you power, I'm going to give you honor, and I'm going to give you length of life if you walk with me. In verse 15, Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Then he did what he should have been doing in the first place. Instead of going to the high place at Gibeon, he goes to Jerusalem, into the tabernacle, and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and peace offerings, and made a feast for all of his servants. Now the reality is, if you're going to be a king, you should ask for long life to do everything that you wanted to accomplish. You should ask for victory in battle. That's one of the main responsibilities of a king, particularly in Bible times, was to lead troops into battle. And so he should have asked for victories. He should have asked for wealth so he could care for the people of his country. But instead he says, all that's fine and good, but the fundamental thing is wisdom. And so because he has asked for the basic, the most important, the fundamental thing, he asked for wisdom. God says, I'll give you it. I'm going to answer your prayer, and I'm going to throw a little icing on the cake. I'm going to give you these other things that you did not ask for. Now let's just take a moment and think about, what is wisdom? Wisdom is not some really cool thoughts that someone has come up from because they sat in a corner and looked at their belly button. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Yeah, whatever. In the Bible, wisdom is skill. As a matter of fact, in Exodus chapter 31, there's a man named Aholiab, and in verses Exodus 31, 1 through 4, says that God gave Aholiab the spirit of wisdom to be able to construct the tabernacle, to have the skill to build the tabernacle. So wisdom is the skill for living life, or in this case, the skill to function as a good king, to function well as the king over the people that God has called him to rule over. And so he says, God, I'm asking for the skills to be able to do this. And it's like God says, I don't know about you, but I sure am glad that we have a God who gives extra, who gives more, who gives abundantly. It's like a friend of mine got married. And after the wedding, his groomsmen presented him with a box. And they made him swear that he would take the box into the motel the night of the wedding. And down the side of the box, they had written in big words, or big letters, honeymoon kit. Now, they got to the room, and when they opened the lid, they found what you would expect to find in a honeymoon kit. Please don't ask me to explain what this means. Just use your imagination. These are groomsmen. You can just imagine what's in the honeymoon kit, and all that was in there, plenty. And so they're looking at it and embarrassed, and all the everything else comes with that. And then they realized that the inside of the box was not nearly as deep as the outside of the box. So they take out all the honeymoon stuff, and then they pull out what basically was a false bottom. And underneath it was a very nice, expensive imported tea set. Now, my first thought is, this is groomsmen. Dudes did this. Let's think about it. Let's just kind of work this out. We don't got a bunch of men in here that are thinking, oh, that's so sweet. It's not what I think. I'm thinking, I get the whole honeymoon kit. But matter of fact, some of you guys, that's where your mind's still at. You haven't even caught up with us on the whole tea set part. And so I'm just thinking, these are groomsmen who have done this. But then I think, is it not cool? They gave them, the newlyweds, what was expected from groomsmen, the honeymoon kit, but then they bless them with extra. That's what our God does. Solomon asked for wisdom, and God gives it to him, and then he gives him all this extra. We have a God who doesn't withhold, but God who overflows his blessings on us. And so Solomon has prayed for wisdom, and God has promised him not just wisdom, but all this other stuff. And so now in verses 16 through 28, we find an example. We find that Solomon putting this wisdom into practice to show us what it looked like. Then 2 prostitutes. Now I'm going to stop right here and just make comments. The story's pretty self-obvious as we're going to read it in a minute. The word translated prostitute can mean someone who sells themselves for money, but it can also just mean someone who is immoral. So whether or not we have actual 2 people who this is their livelihood or just 2 women who are immoral, doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but I just want to point out that it could just be 2 immoral women. So they come to the king and they stand before him. Now the one woman said, "Oh my Lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth to a child while she was in the house. Then on the 3rd day after I gave birth, this woman also gave birth. And we were alone. There was no one else with us in the house. Only we 2 were in the house." So we have 2 women and 2 sons. There are no husbands or brothers or sisters or anybody else in the house. Verse 19, and this woman's son died in the night because she lay on him. She rolled over on her son. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me while your servant slept, and laid him at her breast, and laid her son at my breast. When I rose in the morning to nurse my child, behold, he was dead. But when I looked at him closely in the morning, behold, he was not the child that I had born. But the other woman said, no, the living child is mine and the dead child is yours. The first said, no, the dead child is yours and the living child is mine. Thus they spoke before the king. Now, in the Old Testament, there is a word that means to call out loudly to gather the troops. But there's not actually a word for yell at somebody. Now that's important for us to understand, because when it says that she said and she said, I have an idea they're more than having a civil conversation. Like, I'm picturing elevated volume. They're yelling at one another. As a matter of fact, because I'm a visual learner, I just have the picture of these two and they're ready to go at each other. I mean, you steal my child? That's fighting words. Right, mamas? I mean, y'all go back there and nurse me. I take your child and run off with him. Y'all go, yeah, well, you know. I just picture this just like, you know, somebody they're like going and calling this. Somebody's holding them back, and and Solomon's watching this whole spectacle. They're screaming at each other. This one might know the living one's mine, and back and forth. So verse 23. So the king said, the one says, this is my son that's alive, and your son is dead. And the other says, no, but your son is dead, and my son's the living one. So the king said, bring me a sword. So a sword was brought before the king. And the king said, divide the living child in two and give half to the one and half to the other. Now, if you can't figure it out, it means the child would die. Then the woman whose son was alive said to the king, because her heart yearned for her son, oh, my Lord, give her the living child and by no means put him to death, because that's the kind of love a mother has for her child. But here's the selfish love. The other said, he will be neither mine nor yours. Divide him. Then the king answered and said, give the living child to the first woman, and by no means put him to death. She is his mother. And all Israel heard of the judgment that the king had rendered, and they stood in awe of the king, because they perceived that the wisdom of God was in him to do justice. It's one thing to speak wisdom, but it's something else to live it, to demonstrate it, to see it. So here we have a visual. We see wisdom put into practice, the kind of wisdom that Solomon had. Now, this is essentially the Bible version of YouTube. If you want to see something done, you go to YouTube. You want to see it happen. If you want to see foolishness in action, you go to YouTube. People are foolish enough to do it and foolish enough to broadcast it. So this is kind of what does the king's wisdom look like? Well, you can YouTube King Solomon's wisdom, and there it is. That's what we have here. And so we see the wisdom put into practice. So we're not just told that Solomon was wise, but we see it demonstrated here in this passage. So I realize you're not a king. And ladies, you may need to nudge him a little bit to remind him, not a king. But all of us, like King Solomon, need to make sure we nail down the alphabet. We need to make sure we understand what is most important. So what is most important? Well, let's listen to J.P. Morgan tell us what is most important. J.P. Morgan, in his lifetime, was one of the wealthiest men who have ever lived. As a matter of fact, because of government regulations, we'll probably never have anybody ever attain the wealth that was attained by a handful of individuals at the end of the 19th and early part of the 20th century. In today's money, be a multi-billionaire. It's shocking that he did not write a will until about a year before he died. His will was more than 10,000 pages long because he owned so much stuff that needed to be taken care of. But in his will, he made this statement. He wanted it in there and he wanted it to be read and made public. James Pierpont Morgan said this: I commit my soul in the hands of my Savior. full of confidence that, having redeemed me and washed me with his most precious blood, he will present me faultless before the throne of my heavenly Father. I entreat my children to maintain and defend, at all hazard and at any cost of personal sacrifice, the blessed doctrine of complete atonement of sins through the blood of Jesus Christ once offered, and through that alone. In other words, he understood that money is not the most important thing. It is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ that only comes through his blood that was poured out for us on the cross. What is most important? It is the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. What is the alphabet of life? It is Jesus Christ. You cannot follow the Lord if you don't know the Lord you're following. You cannot belong to him apart from Jesus Christ. The most important thing in life is not your popularity, it is Jesus Christ. The most important thing in life is not your success, it is Jesus Christ. The most important thing in life is not that scholarship, it is Jesus Christ. The most important thing in life is not how much power you can accrue to yourself, it is Jesus Christ. The most important thing in life is not your retirement portfolio, it is Jesus Christ. The most important thing in your life is not how much wealth you can gather, it is Jesus Christ. The most important thing in life is nothing other than Jesus Christ. He is the most important. And when we get that right, then we can learn to read the words of a Christian life. Because now we have the alphabet. We have a relationship with God through his Son, Jesus Christ. This is most important.